Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at lesson 1-4, designing studies. And so now, in order for us to study us, right, using statistics to learn about the world, learn about the people in the world, how to evaluate claims, what we need to think about are the two types of studies that we will think about in this course. One is called an observational study, and one is an experiment, right? And the experiment you can think of more like a scientific situation where you're doing things to try to get a response or study by taking control of the values of what we call the explanatory variable. If I do something here, what is the result, right? What's the response? And so that's compared to observational studies, right? Where you're looking at variables where there's no interference by the researchers. You're not manipulating the variables in any way. You're just studying them. You're collecting data like through a survey, right? And so have that in mind as we go through this course and think about all the data that's presented to us. Is it an observational study or experiment? That becomes essential for us in how we draw conclusions. And so we'll look at that in a little bit. And so first, considering observational studies, one is called a survey, right, which we look at here. Others are retrospective, right? When you look backwards and examine things like from the past, right? And you can kind of see a more formal definition here. Versus a prospective study, right? Watches outcomes such as the development of a disease during the study period, right? So you're looking at things, collecting data as it's going. So starting from now until the end. And so maybe what's happening with COVID-19 and looking at the results of the number of hospitalizations or deaths or positive tests. We're not doing anything to in terms of an experiment. We're just collecting that data and looking at it, right, as it develops over time, right, over the next month, over the next year, and so forth, right? And so this study, and again, sometimes, right, the study involves taking a cohort of subjects and watching them. That would be kind of a cohort design. The COVID example is not necessarily a cohort per se, but it could be somehow designed that way. But again, it really is watching outcomes such as the development of it, like you said, a disease during some period of time, right? And some important vocabulary as we think about observational studies and experiments, right? In this case, we want to look at this experiment or experimental design. And so we have some key vocabulary: factors, level or levels, and treatments, right? And so here's an example of a weight loss study. Imagine you wanted to conduct a weight loss study. And so what are some factors potentially in a weight loss study? I would say maybe how you control for someone's diet and exercise. Those would be factors, right? If our response variable is total weight loss, how would you get that? What would explain total weight loss? So one way to think about some factors, right, would be diet and exercise, right? And those are basically our explanatory variables, are called factors, right? And so each of those would have some level per se, right? You may have people do different types of diets: low fat, protein, vegan, and exercise differently, cardio and strength exercise. You could add other levels, right? The values of these factors of diet and exercise. We could add a whole bunch. I'm just keeping it simple here. And then treatments, right, are these combinations of these factors, right? And you treat a group. In this case, you'd have people who are trying to lose weight. They'll be treated by some factors, right? And so someone would do low fat and cardio, low fat and strength, protein and cardio, protein and strength. So you're getting all these treatments, and then in the end, we want to find out which one produces total weight loss. Is there a difference between them, right? And so that's a sample of a weight loss study, kind of looking at what these terms, factors, levels, and treatments with respect to explanatory variables and response variables.